Live from WXOU at Oakland University, it's the GioMoShow. Now, give it up for your host, GioMoShow.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow interviews right here on WXOU Sports. My name is GioMoShow. I'm the host of the GioMoShow, which is your home for all Oakland sports and beyond from WXOU. And today we have a mix of the Oakland and a mix of the beyond part. For our guest here, Ian Allen returns to the show from Oakland University Swim and Dive, a recent graduate from this year's class. He joins me in the WXOU studios. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing great. I've been doing great. Summer's been amazing. Love it.
You've been having a great time so far. Your final season at Oakland University, decided to take that fifth year, which resulted in Olympic trials. So how's it been for you, kind of coming off of that, and a little bit of your post graduation stuff? How have you been?
I'd say Olympic trials is one of the best moments of my life. I'm kind of resting actually from an injury. So when I was swimming at Olympic trials, I was injured a little bit from a loose nerve. Going to the doctors about that tomorrow, but kind of just relaxing a little bit. 5 years, of college swimming, 14 years of swimming in general. It's just, I never get sick of the pool, but I do want a break. So
for sure. I mean, the fatigue comes at some point.
Yeah. But I've definitely still kind of, I said this is my retirement post. I put not a retirement post, and then I said, I will always be a student athlete, or I will always be a swimmer, is what I said. And so I'm kind of staying connected by, coaching, helping out my old club team that coached me from when I was like 4 to 18 years old. And
watch you grew up.
Yeah, doing private lessons. My private lesson line has kind of been blown up after Olympic trials too. So yeah, kind of staying more involved in the sport of swimming and relaxing at the same time. And I might, get in once this injury settles, try to do some open water stuff. So marathon swimming. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, if you guys want to learn more about this past season of the Golden Grizzlies Swim and Dive, continuing the streak of Horizon League championships and into Olympic trials, well, I got an interview with his head coach, Mitch Alters, a couple of weeks ago here on the GioMoShow. That will be linked in the description here if you want to hear from the head coach himself. But Ian, what I want to talk about here is we talked, you've been to Olympic trials, but now it's the actual Olympics going on in Paris. And I know that you've been locked in. You've been telling me all about kind of the history and the context of everything. So I wanted to deep dive into these Olympics and kind of how you've been enjoying it, what you've been paying attention to so far in Paris.
So I just got chills thinking about this, but the U.S., when it comes to swimming, has been extremely dominant. But our rival is always the Australians, right? But the Australians this year decided to talk a little bit more than they did in recent years, because they do have a strong team. I will give them that.
Of course.
But Kate Campbell, one of the greatest swimmers, greatest sprinters from Australia, decided to post a video. It was a news interview of her saying, I just absolutely despise when the Americans win first place. You know how many times I just have to hear the Star-Spangled Banner? And she's just like, and the U.S. has this infernal cowbell that rings. This is the one thing that I can quote, like word for word, is this infernal cowbell that rings, and they just chant, USA, USA. So if you guys have any swim friends who've been posting on their stories about cowbells or like ringing on the cowbells, that's exactly where it comes from. It's this Australian swimmer complaining about, the U.S. being loud and boisterous and winning every single Olympic event in the past few years. But, they're tough this year. But Michael Phelps reacted to it, and he got really angry on
You can
TV.
tell there was steam coming out of his ears just watching that.
His giant ears and his haircut that just elevates those ears. But yeah, he reacted to it, and he's just like, I think that if personally, I would watch that every single day just to give me that little like
a very emphasized
yes. And so actually the Team USA swimming team, while they're training for the Olympics, they had to watch that video, that clip, every single day.
So that actually ended up becoming part of the preparation.
Yes.
It wasn't just Phelps saying it.
And so one of the things that I've been watching vigorously is those U.S.-Australia rivals.
Oh, yeah.
Ariane Titmus and Katie Ledecky. You're going to see that a little bit more in the 800. We didn't see it a lot in the 400 free. Summer McIntosh sandwiched her way into there. And, you know, Reagan Smith and Emma McEwen in the 100 back. That was an insane one to watch. Reagan Smith getting second as world record holder. And U.S. and Australia, obviously, in both the men's and women's free relays as well. So, like, you know, I've been looking at that medal count a lot, and I've been seeing that it is way closer than it has been in recent years. And there hasn't been, you know, a country that has gotten more gold medals than us in swimming in a very, very, very long time.
And that's something that I wanted to ask, and I feel like I know you and as a competitor the answer to this, but I always see when it comes to the current medal count, the U.S. is on top in total medals. They got a whole lot of silver and bronze, but only a few golds. Meanwhile, a lot of other countries like France and I believe Australia are up there in the gold medal count. And excuse the potential bug here. I saw you swatting, but and I saw them have a few more gold medals. So for you, when you look at that, do you value gold medals or total medals?
In this context, I value both,
Sure.
but more so the gold medals because that's the rub it in your face kind of thing that the U.S. wants over Australia. So what Kate Campbell was talking about when she was, by the way, she didn't even make the Olympics. I just wanted to put that out there.
Ouch.
But yeah, she just missed it. But, you know, when you're first place, your anthem gets played.
That's right.
Right. And so she was telling me, you know, first day, nobody from the U.S. podiumed. You know how nice it was for us to not hear the Star Spangled Banner. So, you know, just hearing that, I want to see way more gold medals. And right now it's projected that Australia is going to get, I think, about 2 or 3 more gold medals than us.
Yeah, I've seen like on the NBC broadcast, they had the kind of like the mathematical model predicting that U.S. would have more total, but Australia would have more golds. First time that's been the case coming into an Olympics, because it's just been U.S. up at top and Australia slowly creeping. And I kind of draw a parallel between you guys as the Golden Grizzlies and IUPUI men's swim, coming really close to you guys in the Horizon League Championships.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring it to your experience, when you have a team kind of chasing you from behind, kind of give me a sense of that kind of extra urgency when you're at the Horizon League Championships and you're at the final 400 free relay. Kind of what is that feeling like, having someone chase you like that?
I will say it's definitely harder to be chased than it is to chase somebody else, because there's so much on your back. And I think Team USA has probably noticed that a lot too. And I do think that a lot of our swimmers have probably succumbed to a little bit of pressure. I think maybe in the 100 free, we could have seen Jack Alexi and Chris Giuliano, you know, get a little bit higher. Especially Jack Alexi was in that 100 meter freestyle, was second coming in, and we got 7th and 8th. It is so hard to keep your cool and not succumb to pressure when you're the one that has that weight on your shoulders.
Yeah, the pressure's on you as the leader.
This is one of the things we always talked about in the Horizon League conference championships. Every single time we do, like, the guys would do like a pre-meet speech, or even like a present meet speech where we just do it like, during the meet.
Yeah.
Always it said, you are standing on the shoulders of giants. And that weight is a lot, So
It's almost like the giant standing on you.
So it's harder. It's way harder to be Team USA and be the most dominant country in swimming for almost over a decade, and then have to finally be chased.
Right.
This is not something that the U.S. is normally used to. We're used to having people to race in certain events, right? But we're not used to somebody coming up close to us on the gold medal count or even the total medal count.
Yeah, and you could see that kind of intensity too. And it kind of bringing it back to your experience too, in that kind of moment, and I don't know specifically if you've had a moment like this at some of the big meets that you've been to, but when you know that you're the top seed, and when you know kind of now bringing it to as you approach the block, as the goggles are on and you're ready to go, you hear the final buzzer and you get going. What's going through your head as you're preparing, as you're walking up to the block to get ready for a big race that you know people are targeting you for?
Honestly, I think when I was younger, when I was, a freshman or a sophomore and I was ranked really high, I think my sophomore year I was ranked first coming in to the 400 IM Horizon League. With that, definitely a ton of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to learn, and I don't mean this in the way that like I deeply care about swimming, but you have to learn not to care in the moment. Sure. About anything that's going on around you. And you have to learn how to care even, after those results are finalized. So, this was a big learning curve for me. It's like I stopped looking at times. I stopped looking at numbers. I stopped looking at rankings. I stopped looking at Swim Cloud, which is, our ranking system for swimming. And I started looking at, how can I just do the best that I can in every single race? So, and I think honestly, that is like, you see that a lot. You see that, one of my favorite races to watch at Olympic trials, I got to watch this live, was Dressel's 100 free. He didn't make the 100 freestyle, Olympic team. Mm-hmm. He made the Olympic team for the relay because he got, I believe it was third. But watching the smile on his face, especially over a guy who self-deprecates in his journal, like you look at his journal, there's a lot of just you're awful, you can do better. Seeing the smile on his face and him actually enjoy the sport of swimming, that was the best thing that I've watched. So, I think taking that into consideration. Just you're here to swim and you're here to swim the best that you possibly can. And if you didn't, well, then you know what to do in the next race. But to just completely, as a first place contender, I think you have to do this as somebody who's one of the top swimmers. You have to wipe out that sense of, times, how other people are swimming, and just get in there, swim the best that you can, and race. And that made me win Olympic trials, that mindset, instead of worrying over numbers and stuff like that. And I think that's the best way when you're a team that's on top or a swimmer that's on top, especially in the Olympics.
Yeah, I would imagine that the goal is to kind of lighten the load on yourself. Like you mentioned that you're standing on the shoulders of giants, or that they're standing on you, to kind of lighten that weight mentally. I'm sure is a big key and kind of drives all of that, right?
Yep. There was Popovici actually said he doesn't think when he gets in the pool, he just shuts off his brain. He shuts off his body. I think he said he shuts off his body too, because he knows what he's done in the pool. It's just time to do what you've done in training.
Yeah, kind of rely on the muscle memory of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then during the race, kind of going to that, I'm curious from your perspective, and I have some high school swimming experience. Shout out Dakota Cougars, 2020 Macomb County champions. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. I got like 15th in the 500, but whatever.
Yeah. but that's points.
Yeah, but in the race, it's different between sprinting events or mid-distance or distance events. You had more of the mid-distance stuff, 400 IM, 200 fly, that kind of range. Mm-hmm. What's going on in your brain while you're swimming? For me, I kind of relied on whatever music I purposely got stuck in my head, but not so much talking to myself while I'm racing. What about you? What's playing in your mind as you're racing? What's kind of going through your mind?
That's an interesting question, because I don't think I remember a lot of my races,
that's understandable.
It's interesting to say, but like I do hear this with a lot of swimmers. It's like they just don't. They swim their race and they're like, I don't remember anything that happened.
Yeah.
But I will say,
I had that experience too. Yeah.
with the IM, what kind of especially helped me is like that last length. I'd mentally prepare myself for the next stroke. I think some people kind of feel like they're thrown into the next stroke. So I do that a little bit, and maybe some niche things like my turn or being able to time my backstroke to breaststroke, because I do a bucket turn, like, which is basically like a full-on backflip in the water.
Yeah, I've seen that like different swimmers have different ways to do that.
Yeah.
I never learned the bucket turn myself, but
Or just something like make sure you're right before I'm like, I always say in my 400 IM, make sure you negative split, right? So I'm kind of thinking or kind of giving myself mental notes of things to think about strategy wise.
sure.
So I don't know if sprinters think about that, but I know that a lot of mid distance and distance swimmers think about that too. Like, where do I push it? Where do I hold back a little bit? Okay. And then like, where do I really need to focus my technique? That's one thing I did all the time. I need to focus on my technique, my breaststroke. So I need to really kind of zone in on that a little bit in my races, but in the freestyle, it's just get up and go, and, thinking about all those stuff and keeping very light mental notes about those things in your head.
Yeah, all while you're 100% outputting with your body. Like
Yeah.
that's something that's just so crazy that you guys are able to do that.
Yeah, you gotta reduce the thinking.
Yeah.
A lot. It's just like a lot of people just say don't think, just swim. That's true. That's like one of the things I have to remind myself too, because I like to overthink a lot.
Sure, and especially when so much preparation goes into it, and it all kind of, and that's something when I'm watching the Olympics, like, and this applies to any kind of championship level meet, but an entire year, 4 years, a lifetime of preparation, of training, of dedication, all comes to the one moment that could be erased by a bad start, by missing a turn, and that kind of moment is just always so fascinating to me. That like we're watching the Olympics, like, this is the biggest moment in all of their careers, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Even with those that have Olympics to come, if they're a younger swimmer, this is the biggest moment, and we watch it heat after heat after heat, and that's for me, one of the biggest things that captivate me about the Olympics and about just kind of championship level athletics.
Yeah, this is like, this isn't like, I know that tennis, like in tennis, they don't take the Olympics as seriously as they do Wimbledon.
Sure.
Or the US Open even. US Open. But some matches, like the Olympics, that is the biggest meet in Olympic swimming. Or, basketball, the same thing. So
Sure.
I've heard, I don't watch Olympic basketball, but I've definitely heard that the US is just overwhelmingly dominant in basketball.
Yeah, both men's and women's.
Yes, exactly. It's just so, but yeah, it's the pinnacle of, I'm glad you brought up the whole, you swim for 4 years only to compete, and it could be messed up by a bad start, because there's a way to approach that too.
Yeah.
Swimming's a great thing to learn. There's a great thing to learn about that when it comes to swimming. It's like you train your butt off consistently for a really, really long time, only to compete at one meet in the season. You're training for one meet. And, sometimes you move up. We went to NICs, we had some people go to NCAAs, but you are training for conferences. You are swimming for that one meet. And so you just have to, it taught me a really valuable lesson about, you can't put too much weight on that last meet and how you do, because at the end, like, it'll destroy you in the end.
Yeah.
It'll mentally destroy you. You have to realize that, like, the process is what matters,
Yeah.
I always say that my favorite race is my 400 IM my junior year. And the reason why wasn't the best time, not even really close, but it is the best hardest swum 400 IM that I've ever swam in my life. And that's all I care about. So,
like, you feel the most personal kind of satisfaction to that.
Yes.
Regardless of what happened.
And that is the best way to approach swimming. I just see some of these swimmers. I coach a swimmer too. It's just like, She dropped 7 seconds in a 100-meter butterfly. This is a minute and 20-second race for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
She's crying after it, and I'm like, what is going on? She's like,
that's a big time drop.
State championship, 100 fly in a relay. She's like, I let the relay down. I'm like, what are you talking about? You just swam your butt. You're barely be able to talk to me because you're so gassed out.
Yeah, how can you cry when you're so winded? Right?
Exactly. But that's what happens when you fall into that trap of dehumanizing yourself to a set of times and numbers. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love, and that's why I always love talking to you about this, like whether on the show or not, because I love your perspective of the mental side of it, and I know, and I'm sure part of that comes from like you kind of hinted at, like falling into that trap. You've been kind of on the dark side of it and kind of changing your mentality to kind of come up more towards the sunshine, but like. Not to bring up a bad time or anything, but like, when did you make that mental switch to look at stuff more positively for your own sake, almost?
My junior year of college, I pretty much my entire life was chasing cuts and numbers and times, and even when I was getting recruited, that was the worst. Like if I could say to anything to anybody who's getting recruited is. Just focus on yourself. You'll find the right school.
Yeah.
Like I did. But it's just, I was so hyper fixated on everything, and it creates this mental energy in you that burns you out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ignore that burnout, but you will at one point have to face it. And it's basically like, it's like it's kind of like, you have one little mine you set right here,
and
another one you set right here, and another one. This is you ignoring burnout, right? You're just setting these mines down. There's one button that you have to press, right? And you might have to go through that burnout. But I went through that burnout, and I had to learn the hard way that you can't dehumanize yourself to a set of numbers, and with swimming, you do that all the time because, people value you based off of your times, that's, and so that, even that metaphorical, just having a person, an event they're specialized in, and then a number is just, it's an awful process that you have to realize that you are a human. There's a reason that you joined this sport.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing, is like, this is actually a funny example. You've seen Inside Out too?
I have not, but I've been looking forward to it.
One of my favorite things about the fact about Inside Out 2 is they brought in like Riley, who's a student athlete.
Yeah.
And she joins hockey, because it's an escape for her, because it's nice for her. And I think what happens when you get really successful and you get really, into swimming, you sacrifice your well-being for like the sake of a time, because you're so eager to chase these things, right? But you don't take care of your health, right? And then you become so hyper obsessive to the point where it becomes unhealthy. And that's where you burn out, and that's where you overtrain or under recover. Those things work hand in hand. But like, I had to realize that I got to that point where I was just like, I burnt out to the point where, I was barely eating, barely sleeping, still practicing, 2 hours of sleep every week, studying, still trying to get my major,
still being a student.
Yeah. Still being a student while being an athlete. And I was fried. My brain was fried. And so I took a step back and I realized, why is this killing me?
Right.
This is the sport that I used as an escape. So that was the one thing that was like, I faced that burnout and I realized like why I joined swimming. It was for an escape. It was an outlet. So yeah. And I let my biggest outlet become my biggest stressor in life. So yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up to kind of relay it to the Olympics every single swimmer that you guys are watching on NPC, every single semifinals heat, every medal race, everyone's going through that. Every athlete that you see has this lifetime of build up to the one moment that you get to see them, but after that moment, they have to process all that. They are still that person after you see them, and that's not something that is, flashy to watch, like for broadcasting's sake, like that's not shown. But understand, when you guys are watching these Olympics, everyone has to understand and face the fact, oh wow, I got 8th place in the 100 free. That's a big mental weight to bring with you, and kind of bring it to I don't want to call out the American swimmers for that, but they have to face that. They have they have another 4 years, hopefully, to deal with that. Understand it's a big deal. I just wanted to make sure you guys understand that when you're watching swimming.
Yeah, it's such a big deal. I mean, like, and you can see how much pressure these athletes face. So I'm a big tennis fan.
Sure.
And I watched the other day Djokovic, who's probably one of the greatest tennis players of all time, versus Nadal. And Nadal's like he's more of a veteran, but he's still really good. And so, but Djokovic was projected to win that. But you saw this like series of points where Djokovic was just getting nailed by serves, by tiny mistakes, and I just heard the announcer say, he's human. Like this shows that, the athletes are a little bit human. He still ended up winning it, but it's just like that. I don't want to say that that pressure, you don't want to pretend that doesn't exist. You should recognize, that exists. And Mitch even said this on his, talk with you. Pressure is a privilege. Mm-hmm. And that's a great way to reframe pressure. But you also just have to realize that the reason why you're there is because of the love you put into that sport.
Yeah.
Like you put in time, you put in effort, you put in everything that you put in because you loved it. And so you just have to keep doing that. And that's all that matters. That is all that matters, I think.
No doubt. And you wouldn't be able to put all that time in if you didn't love it.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. For any kind of passion that anybody has, you wouldn't do it if you didn't love it to some degree.
Exactly. And if you get 8th place at an Olympic final and you enjoy the sport less, I think you need to reconsider why you're swimming.
Right. You got to take a step back.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so to end things off more on a positive note, someone that we've been watching and the entire world has been watching is France's own Leon Marchand. Wow. We've watched so far as of this recording. This is Wednesday night, July 31st. He is 3 for 3 for individual gold medals. 400 IM, 200 fly, 200 breast. And he's got one more coming up. I believe it's the 200 IM, right?
Yeah.
That by the time this comes out, they might have already finished. So maybe he went 4 for 4. But
he's going to go 4 for 4.
He's unbelievable.
He could pick any single event from that lineup, and other than maybe those sprint events, and probably beat everybody in that field. It's
remarkable. And even when I'm watching it, and I love, I don't know the man's name, but the color commentator on the NBC broadcast for swimming. Oh, I love that guy.
Rowdy Gaines.
I love that guy.
I got to see him at trials.
It
was great. Yeah, dude, he's awesome. That's another person who really loves what they do, and I like seeing that.
It just comes through in his voice. But when I'm watching Marchand swim, it's not only that he's just each stroke is just a little bit faster than everybody, but the way he finishes his butterfly, his breaststroke, every single wall that he hits is exactly at the end of his stroke. He gets everything out of it, and right there, he's at the wall.
Yeah.
That is so difficult to time because I saw so many breaststrokers and butterflies get out-touched just because they were in a bad part of their stroke by the time they hit the wall, whether they're coasting because they don't have enough room to do another, or they're just kind of stuck halfway. Marchand's right there at the very end, full reach, boom, he's got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible what he's been able to do.
Oh, yeah. And I think he's definitely benefited because he was actually, he swam in the NCAA. There's a lot of swimmers actually, and I don't like this at all, but U.S. is still one of the most dominant sports is swimming, but you see all these international people like all these international swimmers in the Olympics come to the U.S. and compete in the U.S. You know, Ariane Titmus, Katie Ledecky, and Summer McIntosh, the top 3 people, all swim in the U.S. Canada, Summer McIntosh, Australia, Ariane Titmus, U.S., Katie Ledecky. But anyways, yeah, sorry, that was a tangent. But yeah, so when we swim in yards, you know, there's a lot of more opportunity for turns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely benefited from coming to the U.S. and having turns like walls in his face consistently.
Yeah, emphasizing like, hey, you got to get this right.
Yes, exactly. And it's one of the best things about being a swimmer in the U.S. is like you have that yard swimming. I know that like some people have short course meters, you know, 25 meters.
Yeah.
But you're practicing turns at a faster pace and you're timing those things. I think a lot of swimmers struggle with that. Breaststroke, butterfly, mainly. In a 400 IM, it is also hard.
Yeah.
People say it doesn't matter. It really does. But yes, I think if you are at that high level and that high up, you are hyper analyzing all of those things.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah. And so it kind of comes easy to you. It's like when you were saying, you know, what kind of goes in your head when you're swimming, your brain's shut off because that muscle memory goes into the exact timing of the turns. And so, yeah. I mean,
because you can't like talk and count out loud in your head. Like that's not possible. You got to rely on the muscles moving.
oh yeah. And when you don't practice it, it is really, really hard. You'll have a lot of time in your races. So,
Yeah.
but he's very specific, very hyper specific, really good technique, really strong in the water. You know, you saw his breaststroke. His breaststroke was just very long.
Yeah, and I noticed that. I forget who in the 200 breaststroke that I just watched today. I forget who was the American in that race. His was a lot faster. He spent a lot of time with his shoulders above water for his breaststroke. A lot of reps for that. But
Yeah.
Marchand underwater, up, like it's much more like peaceful looking.
Oh yeah.
The way he does it, and it's cool to see the kind of variance in it. But when you get it right for breaststroke, oh dude, you're gliding.
When you're a swimmer of that caliber, it kind of looks like you know, it's like everybody's toxic trait. It's just like watching people who are doing this stuff because they make it look easy. I mean, like gymnastics is a great example.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they just make it look easy. You're like, oh, I could do that. Of course not. But I don't even say that. I would never be able to.
It's one of my favorite jokes. Like the dude sitting eating Cheetos. This athlete sucks.
Yeah. Or they're like one of them like messes up like just a little bit in this routine they've been practicing. They're like pathetic.
I love that joke.
But no, I mean when you're that high up, you got to be hyper specific about it. But it all comes so naturally when you get into the water, especially at that level too. You got to shut off your brain at that level.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. But just to see Marchand in his home country, the loudest you've ever heard a swimming venue, especially during his breaststroke, like it's been an absolute pleasure just to watch him do what he's doing in his home country. That because it's so rare to be able to do that.
Oh yeah.
And it's just so much fun to watch.
You heard the stadium too. Just every single time he'd come up in his breaststroke.
In unison.
Yeah, it's just like I wish I was there for that. But yeah, he's very dominant in yards swimming and in meters swimming in long course in an Olympic size pool. Just he's gonna go places. And honestly, I think, and I know you wanted to bring this up, if the pool was a little bit deeper, I think he would have broken his own world record in the 400 IM.
Because he was real close to it. He got the Olympic one, but he was real close to that world record.
Yeah, he is the reason why Michael Phelps has no more individual world records in the Olympics anymore.
And it's just crazy. Everyone like understandably drawing the parallels between him and Michael. You know, Coach Bowman obviously being a piece of that, but just to see how it's the sport of swimming even after Phelps' retirement has not slowed down, has not been less exciting for missing him.
Yeah.
You're seeing superstars all over the place, not only US, not only Australia, but now France. And it's awesome to see that the sport is continuing in that kind of momentum. And I hope it
100%.
continues to.
Yeah, I think post Phelps era, swimming has become more of an international sport, which not the best for the U.S., but honestly, I like seeing it. This Olympics is very unique because most finals you won't see two Americans. Really crazy.
Yeah.
Really crazy. I mean, most finals you won't see that. You'll see most of the first and second place medalists be from different countries.
Yeah, Romania getting their first gold medal.
Romania,
stuff like that.
from Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Irish have been swimming so well.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see this swimming become more worldwide. So post Phelps, everybody's like, Phelps is an American swimmer, like he's my inspiration.
Of course.
You're from the U.S. You want to represent the U.S. So a lot of people coming in and swimming. Definitely looking forward to tryouts post-Olympic year at the place that I coach. Going to be a lot of people, but
yeah.
But it's nice to see just gold medalists from other countries and knowing that that kind of has made the Olympics more of a worldwide sport, or that is becoming international.
And it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I'm excited to watch the rest of this Olympics, not only with swim finishing up, but open water swim coming up next week as well.
Yes.
And all the other sports, track and fields coming up. I just love the Olympics, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. Been streaming table tennis throughout the day.
Men's beach volleyball kept me awake in lecture yesterday.
I know. I was debating whether or not I wanted to wake up at 2 a.m. and watch the men's triathlon, but I needed to sleep.
That's what the Olympics are all about. And Ian Allen, thank you so much for joining us on the GioMoShow. Wish we could talk more about it.
Love to be here.
And it's so much fun to get your perspective as a swimmer and as someone who's been to this high level. You provide great perspective on it, not only in the actual, like in the water stuff, but in the mentality of it as well. So again, really appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate being here always.
And you can find the GioMoShow. If you want Oakland sports and beyond, I am your guy. Be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube for all your Oakland sports, for all your Olympics coverage, whatever else we got going on in the sports world. Your home for it is right here on the GioMoShow. So we'll see you next week, everybody, on the GioMoShow.